This evening, we're going to talk about what is UX versus UI design. A few years ago, Gary Simon, a big friend of mine, asked to some to describe to summarize the difference between UI and UX design, and he had a very beautiful answer. Number one, UI is how good the car looks. UX is how good you feel driving it. Number two, UI is functional. UX is psychological. Number three, UI is Tinder Profile. UX is the date. I decided to include the last one just to illustration the fact that everybody has their own interpretation of what an experience design does versus what user interface design does. And of course, there's a lot of abstract and conceptual and even psychological terms to describe the difference. But I think it would be best to show more practical examples of what these differences are. So let's start with this website. Here we have a beautiful landing page of a travel company. Usually, we think that a UI or a web design created, but in reality, UI design is one part of the whole process. A UI design is interested in things like typography, making sure that they are using rough typography and fundamentals. They are interested in white or negative space to give an interface structure between the elements. We think usually how the spaces can be and how the negative space will be too, comparing with photographs and things like this to put it together and have a nice combination. And they are also interested in colors and ensuring a perfect contrast and usability. They are also interested in icons and illustration, and they are responsible for ensure that the user interface look good on all types of device. So, in the UX, UX is a process that has many parts and usually it starts with the research. In research, we have understanding, conducting a user interview to identify their requirements, user persona, represent a typical user to identify their goals, frustrations, and etc. Use cases. How might different people use this product or service? And journey maps. How user might start and finish the experience. Also, we have brainstorm. In brainstorm, we have user flows, diagrams that outline the steps a user might take during the experience as they go from step to step in UI. And this is an example how the user flow, the options of they have, and the wireframes, how things will be allocated in the right space, not exactly in the right space, but the things necessary to put in a website or an application. After we have the wireframes, we have the implementation. And is where UI design could come into effect. They create prototypes and they can be low or high fidelity prototypes with interactives or not. And after approve the prototypes, developers make the impossible come true. So we have the application, we have websites, whatever we designed. After implementation, there's another step, the last one step, that we call reporting. Reporting. So once it's being implemented, the product, the service, you can have usability report, which can involve observing real users using the actual product. So UX, as I said, it's a whole process, like a factory line to a creative process. And this process never ends because it's something that continually occurs in order to improve the product, the experience, and the performance. So finish.